Welcome to The Behavior Code, the show that deciphers the hidden patterns in our lives. I'm your host, Maria.
And I'm Gabriel. It's great to be back. Today we're diving into something very human, something intense and deeply personal.
We're talking about revenge, and I think it's safe to say everyone at some point has imagined getting revenge.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Maybe a colleague at work just blatantly took credit for your project.
Right, or a friend spreads a rumor about you that just isn't true. Or even something simpler, like someone cutting you off in traffic. In that moment, your mind just starts writing a script.
A story where justice is finally served, where they finally get it, They finally understand what they did wrong.
Exactly. A moment where the scales are rebalanced and you're not the one left feeling powerless. And it's a powerful fantasy. It can be incredibly satisfying to just imagine.
But that's where the psychology gets really fascinating, because researchers have found this huge disconnect. We think revenge will bring us this amazing sense of relief and closure, but the reality is often very different.
Yeah, it often doesn't deliver what we expect. So today on the show, we are going to explore the deep psychology of revenge. Why do we crave payback so intensely? What's happening in our brains when we have those thoughts?
And why does it sometimes feel addictive? While some people can get wronged and just move on, others get stuck in that anger for years. It's a fundamental part of human nature, and understanding it tells us a lot about ourselves.
So to really get this, we kind of have to go way, way back.
Like thousands of years back, before there were laws, police, or court systems as we know them, early human societies ran on something completely different.
Reputation and, well, retaliation. Anthropologists who've studied these tribal cultures found that revenge wasn't just some emotional outburst. It was actually strategic.
Right. It had a social function. If someone from another group harmed you or stole from you, and your group did nothing, that sent a message.
It signals weakness, and weakness invites more attacks, more exploitation. So revenge was basically a deterrent.
It was a big flashing sign that said, harming us comes with consequences, don't mess with our group.
You can even see this principle in ancient legal codes. Like the most famous one is an eye for an eye.
And today we hear that and think, wow, that's so harsh, brutal even. But historically, it was actually designed to do the opposite. It was meant to limit violence.
That's such a good point. It wasn't about escalating things endlessly. It meant the retaliation should be proportional. If someone takes your eye, you take theirs. You don't wipe out their entire family.
Exactly. It put a cap on the cycle of violence. So revenge in its original form was really sort of a primitive justice system.
And because that system was so critical for survival for so long, our brains are still wired with that logic. When someone harms us, our brain doesn't just register the pain, it registers an imbalance, a sense of unfairness.
And revenge feels like the way to restore that equilibrium, to put things right again. That ancient survival instinct is still running in the background, even though we now have, courts and laws to handle this stuff.
Which brings us to what's actually happening inside our heads. Modern neuroscience has given us this incredible window into the brain, and what it shows about revenge is kind of amazing.
It really is. Using brain imaging like fMRI, researchers have found that thinking about revenge, specifically imagining punishing someone who wronged you, it lights up a part of the brain called the striatum.
And the striatum is a key player in the brain's reward circuitry. It's part of the dopamine system.
Yeah, let's be clear about what that means. This is the exact same network that becomes active when we experience other pleasurable rewards. Things like eating delicious food, winning money, getting a compliment, or social recognition.
So what you're saying is that on a biological level, the brain treats revenge like a piece of chocolate cake or a winning lottery ticket.
That is exactly what I'm saying. It's not just that revenge feels emotionally justified, it literally feels rewarding. Your brain gives you a little hit of dopamine just for anticipating it.
Wow, I remember reading about one of those studies. They put people in these, economic games where another player could choose to act unfairly and take their money.
Mm-hmm. And later, they gave the wronged players a chance to punish the unfair player, like by making them pay a fine. And their brain scans showed that just the anticipation of getting to do that, it triggered those strong reward signals.
And what's crazier is that the stronger a person's desire for revenge was, the more activation they saw in those reward centers. It's like a direct correlation.
It is, and this is the big but. This is where things get really complicated. Because the brain predicts it will feel good. It predicts satisfaction. But what happens in real life? Well, the emotional outcome often doesn't match the prediction at all.
Right, and this leads us to the big paradox of revenge, why it so often fails to make us feel better. Psychologists have a term for this, right?
They do. It's called affective forecasting error, which is a fancy way of saying humans are just really bad at predicting how future events are going to make them feel.
We're terrible at it. We think winning the lottery will solve all our problems and make us happy forever, or that a bad breakup will ruin our lives for years. And usually we're wrong on both counts.
Totally. And revenge is one of the biggest examples of this forecasting error. We have this deep-seated belief that it will bring closure, that it will be a final, satisfying end to a painful chapter. But in reality, it often does the opposite. It prolongs the distress.
There was another study that showed this perfectly. They gave one group of participants the chance to, punish someone who had treated them unfairly in a game. Another group didn't get that chance. They just had to move on.
And when the researchers checked in with them later, they found something completely counterintuitive. The people who got revenge, they actually thought about the incident more afterward.
That is so wild. So instead of giving them closure, it just kept the whole experience alive and kicking in their minds.
Exactly. And the reason for this seems to be that the act of revenge forces your brain to revisit the original offense over and over. You have to think about what they did, why it was wrong, what the fair punishment is. You're essentially reliving the trauma.
And each time you do that, you're strengthening the emotional memory connected to it. It's like carving that neural pathway even deeper into your brain.
Yep. The psychological term for this is rumination. This is the habit of just repeatedly thinking about and dwelling on upsetting experiences. And rumination it's just terrible for you. It's strongly linked to anxiety, anger, and depression.
So the very thing we think is going to set us free emotionally actually ends up chaining us more tightly to the past. That's the trap of revenge.
And there's another layer to this, which is about our social world. Many motivations for revenge are really about social status.
Right. Going back to those early human societies, we are deeply social creatures. Your reputation inside the group was everything. It determined if you got food, protection, a mate.
Losing status wasn't just embarrassing, it could be a death sentence. So, our brains developed these very sensitive alarm systems for humiliation or disrespect.
So when someone insults us or betrays us or embarrasses us in public, the brain doesn't just see it as an insult. It sees it as a threat to our identity, a threat to our standing in the group.
And revenge becomes a way to restore that lost dignity, to signal to everyone else, I'm not weak, you can't do that to me. It's a status correction tool.
Which explains why the urge for revenge is so much stronger when the offense happens in public. Public humiliation is like a virus for your reputation. It spreads through the whole social group.
And that's why social media is such a powder keg for this stuff. You've got a public environment that amplifies the status threat, which in turn amplifies the desire to retaliate. It's a perfect storm.
Yeah, it really is. Now, let's talk about something we all do but maybe don't admit. Revenge fantasies.
Laughs. Yes! The good news for everyone listening is that they are extremely common and surprisingly normal.
They can actually be healthy psychological coping mechanism. When you feel powerless after being wronged, your mind constructs these little movies where your power is restored. It's a way to process the anger without, actually going out and causing harm.
Mm-hmm. Some psychologists think it even helps regulate the intensity of the emotion. By imagining justice being done, your brain gets a little temporary relief from that feeling of helplessness.
But, and this is a huge but, there is a massive difference between imagination and action. The fantasy might release some tension, but acting on it, that opens up a whole new world of consequences: social, legal, emotional.
That's such a critical skill to learn. Recognizing the emotional impulse for what it is, a fantasy, and then making a separate, conscious behavioral decision. They are not the same thing.
And that leads to maybe the most dangerous part of all this: escalation, the revenge cycle.
Right. Because when you retaliate against someone, they almost never see themselves as the villain who deserved it. From their perspective, your revenge is a brand new, unjust attack.
Which then triggers their own revenge response. And you get this cycle where each side is absolutely convinced they are the ones restoring justice, while the other side is just being awful.
You see it everywhere, from feuding families to huge international conflicts. Each action just fuels the next one. Breaking that cycle requires someone to step outside of that emotional loop. Absolutely. And those stories are so compelling because they tap directly into that reward circuitry we talked about. They present revenge as a clean, satisfying narrative. The hero is wronged, they train, they overcome obstacles, and they finally get their payback. The credits roll and we feel a sense of justice.
That emotional loop is so powerful, and it makes you wonder, are some people just more prone to getting stuck in it? Does personality play a role in who seeks revenge and who is able to let things go? That emotional loop is so powerful, and it makes you wonder, are some people just more prone to getting stuck in it? Does personality play a role in who seeks revenge and who is able to let things go?
It's interesting to think about how much our idea of revenge is shaped by the stories we consume. Movies, TV shows, books, they are filled with revenge plots.
Absolutely. Psychologists have found clear links between certain personality traits and a higher tendency toward vengeance. For instance, people with high levels of neuroticism, who tend to experience negative emotions like anger and anxiety more intensely, are more likely to ruminate on perceived wrongs and desire revenge.
It's interesting to think about how much our idea of revenge is shaped by the stories we consume. Movies, TV shows, books, they are filled with revenge plots.
But they often leave out the messy reality we've been discussing: the rumination, the anxiety, the fact that revenge rarely fixes the underlying emotional wound. Think about the Count of Monte Cristo. It's the ultimate revenge story, but his revenge consumes decades of his life and costs him dearly.
Completely. People think forgiveness means you're forgetting what happened or that you're excusing the bad behavior, saying it was okay.
And this desire for revenge, this need to restore status, has found a terrifyingly effective new playground: the internet. When really, forgiveness isn't for the other person at all. It's for you. It's about releasing the emotional grip that event has on your mind. It's deciding you're not going to let them live rent-free in your head anymore.
Mm-hmm. And the research backs this up. People who practice forgiveness have lower stress levels, better mental health, even better physical well-being. From a psychological view, it isn't weakness, it's achieving emotional independence.
So, to wrap this all up, revenge is one of our oldest, most powerful instincts. It served a real purpose in our evolutionary past, helping to maintain order.
But in our modern lives, that same instinct often backfires. It promises relief, but delivers rumination. It promises freedom, but traps us in the very emotions we're so desperate to escape.
True freedom, it seems, comes when we reclaim control over our attention, our thoughts, and our emotional energy, when we decide where to invest them.
Because in the end, the real victory isn't about defeating the other person. The real victory is when you no longer need revenge at all.
That's our show for today. Thank you for tuning in to The Behavior Code. You can find us on all major podcast platforms and join the conversation on our social media channels.
We'll be back next week with a new episode exploring the fascinating world of cognitive biases. Until then, stay curious. Upbeat outro music fades in.